The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
Here in the Fargo Dome, week is wrapping up. Fargo 2018. Jason Bryant here again for another Short Time Wrestling podcast. Today, our guest is North Carolina State Chairman Ed Ducan. And Ed, you emailed me back in April and said, hey, let's talk North Carolina wrestling because there's a lot of things going on. So just right off the bat, there were so many different things you were listing. That's a lot of energy going through the state right now. And why is it an exciting time to be involved with North Carolina wrestling?
Good gracious, Jason. That's a loaded question. Where do you want me to start? You want me to start with the Wolfpack or the Tar Heels or the Beach Nationals or our kids programs or our cadet runner-up here? There's just so many good things going on at all the different levels right now. And honestly, I feel like I'm about the luckiest guy in America. I think we've got a magnet or something in North Carolina right now. It's drawing guys down there to train and coach, and it's a real exciting time.
Well, yeah, you're talking about exciting time. North Carolina has 12 four-year colleges among 4 different college divisions. You got the 71s, which is second most behind Pennsylvania. Queens comes on board as a full D2 member this year, so there's 3 Division 2 teams. You got a Division 3 team with Greensboro, and Eric Wentz was just walking down here, and an NAI team at St. Andrews. So you got your bases covered as far as the 4-year schools go. A lot of excitement about Mike Machiavello winning a national title this year. First All-ACC final ever against Jared Haught. I mean, Pat Popolizio's got the program running. You mentioned that you were a Mountaineer fan of the App State variety. So let's just start with the colleges. As a wrestling fan, seeing what they're doing at the Division I level, Carey's got it rolling at Campbell. I mean, it's an exciting time to be a Carolina college wrestling fan.
It really is, and our college coaches are doing a fantastic job. And we're blessed to have some great coaches like Pat Popolizio and Coleman Scott and Kerry Colat, and all those guys are doing a great job. O.T. Johnson down at Pembroke, all those guys are doing a great job of marketing their program and selling their program to the area. They've got their kids on board. They're doing lots of camps and clinics all around the state. Of course, you know, Davidson, Joey Dance just came down to Davidson just a month or so ago. I'm an App State alum, to be full disclosure here, so I'm pretty partial to John Mark Bentley and what he's doing up at App State, and it's nice to have 3 SoCon titles in a row under our belt, looking for a 4th. But there's just all the guys, you know, our college guys are getting it done, and they've really set the bar high in their respective classifications there, and they're giving back. That's what I really, as a state chairman, that's what I like. Those guys they're on board. They're giving back to the sport. They're contacting me saying, what can we do to help you guys at the grassroots grow things and develop? And they're putting their money where their mouth is, too. They're running the RTCs. They're bringing in elite-level athletes to do clinics and to work with guys. And they're letting our young guys come in to those training environments. And it's showing up. It's paying off here in Fargo and other places.
You mentioned the State Association giving back. I mean, it wasn't very long after Tony Ramos got into Chapel Hill that he's on the North Carolina USA coaching staff. It's not like he's coaching with Illinois. They got 9 billion coaches, and then Melissa Simmons, the director of ops, and she won this thing a couple times in high school. She's part of the State Association. So you've got the buy-in from the college programs, and what have you seen from maybe a membership level on how the high school kids at the cadet kids coming into the cadet level or the cadets going into the junior level, how they've responded to such a high level, as you said, giving back?
Well, I think shock. It's kind of like shock and awe, really. I don't even think a lot of folks in North Carolina realize the resources that we have right now at our fingertips, and that's part of what we're in the process of trying to do is educate folks in North Carolina that, hey, this is some pretty impressive training opportunities you've got here at your fingertips if you'll just take advantage of it. You don't have to get in a car and drive 6 hours to another state to find quality training experiences. We've got them right here in your backyard. If you're willing to drive across town, pretty much anywhere in North Carolina, you can find some pretty high-level training opportunities going on. So we're educating our kids, and they're starting to see it. We just had Richard Trenner in the finals. He's our 3rd ever Cadet Greco finalist, I think. We had Donald Cates made a great run in freestyle. He's worked real close with Coach Kendig and some of the guys down at the RTC there at Wolfpack RTC and Tar Heel RTC. The guys down there have worked with him, and of course he's put the time in too. He was getting up and going to practice every day for working those environments, and so credit to him too. But as more important people are discovering those tools and resources and taking advantage of them, it's paying off, and you're starting to see that the level of kids across the board is starting to rise. And I don't think that's going to do anything except continue as long as these guys continue to live in North Carolina, which we plan on them doing. That's one great thing about being in the South, and you know this. If somebody comes in and you like them, you'll claim them real quick, And so we're happy to claim these folks, and we hope they stick around because it's going to make a big difference. We think the center of the universe for the wrestling world is shifting to North Carolina as far as we're concerned.
As a native Virginian, they still embrace me. So, it's always cool to come back. And then, I'm from a border state, so I've, grew up around the Southeast Regionals, and the years before I even started wrestling, they're out in Boone. I know it was stories about my future teammates before I even started wrestling. Yeah, we went to Boone for Southeast Regionals, and get on a bus, you go down to Jacksonville. Carolina is such a central hub, really, for events now. You've had East Coast duels down there. You've got a couple more events up there. And as a state director and putting something together like that, where's the struggle, I guess, to get people to buy in and say, yes, we can do this. And once you finally do it, get people like, yeah, we did it. And keep that momentum going.
I think our challenge has been just educating our high school coaches on the benefits of the international styles, Greco and freestyle, and how it translates to freestyle, to the folk style world. We fought a little bit of that folk style only mentality that I'll call it, but we're getting coaches on board. They're buying in. Guys like Coleman and Pat, they're big supporters of freestyle. They believe in it. They know the value of it. They've got their guys doing it. It's not just talk. They've got RTCs. They've got athletes training. We've got guys right now out at Colorado Springs at the training camp, and the kids in North Carolina know that Machiavella and that they know that Wisdowski, and they know that Tony, and they know that Timmy McCall, who was here with us the first half of the week coaching, got on a plane and went to Colorado Springs to train. So we're not just, listen to that. Did you do that?
This is like the second time I've done a show this week, and somebody's played Sweet Caroline during the show. So, bop, bop, bomb. All right, now, anyway, you were saying.
Well, that's I'm going to take my hat off. That's almost a national anthem in North Carolina, right? So
that or Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's up in Boone. That would be Boone's side of town. But, yeah, we've got some great club programs right now they've started getting some high-level coaching. Richard Trenner here came out of the Dark Horse Wrestling Club down in Charlotte, and they're doing fantastic things in that Charlotte area. The regional training centers, Wolfpack RTC, the kids that are going to those places are getting some great training.
So what I'm hearing from you say, the benefits of the RTC, a lot of people are focused in the college fans, like, the RTC, it's great for recruiting, it's great for building a senior athletes. You're seeing where the RTC is really influencing the local community with, because there's a certain area that they can draw kids from and train there. And you're seeing that more so than, more impactful than, maybe that's something that's perhaps overlooked.
Absolutely important for the guys in the area that can go there. And then the other side of that is you've got the senior level athletes there in the community. Well, they're there in training, but they like to go do a camp or a clinic every now and then. And, I used to, hang on every moment of the athlete appearance program because I would think, I can get a high-level athlete to come to North Carolina. Well, now Tony Ramos lives in North Carolina. Now Mike Machiavello lives in Raleigh. Now Joey Dance lives in Davidson. I don't have to go far to look for an athlete appearance like I used to, so it's kind of nice.
What was it like seeing a guy like Machiavello, one-time state champ, not really highly recruited, break through, have a really good junior year, and then all of a sudden he's a national champion. I mean, as a North Carolina homegrown guy, how's that make you feel?
Well, to quote another famous North Carolina wrestler, woo! That's how it made me feel, baby. To see Mike succeed and to know his story. I love his story because he did. He's one of those guys that just kept believing. He bought into the Wolfpack program, the pack mentality, as they like to call it, and he just kept plugging away and believing, and they kept believing in him, and obviously he had great success. And I like to think, and I believe it, because I've seen some of the kids on our national team that are up here this week in Fargo. There's more Mike Machiavellos in North Carolina. We just don't know who they are yet. But he sort of broke through. You know, if you want to call winning a national title a breakthrough, that's a pretty good breakthrough. He showed that it could be done. He showed that with hard work, you can succeed at the highest level. With quality training, you can succeed at the highest level. Donald Cates, who just finished third in freestyle, has been wrestling freestyle for 1 year. He didn't even place in our state tournament. The kid don't even have a medal from the state tournament. He got tech-falled at our freestyle state tournament back in May. I think he's making some pretty significant gains to come to Fargo and finish third, first time out here as a cadet. And he's not done. He didn't go get his stop sign and say, all right, I've achieved all I want to achieve in the world of wrestling. You know, his mentality, and I interviewed him and Richard right after their match, and both of them talked about getting back to work and going back to their clubs and starting to train even more. So Mike's sort of, you know, that's a breakthrough for us. And it's so exciting to be able to talk about that. And, you know, of course, even the other guys that aren't from North Carolina, but having guys like Wisdowski, having Appalachian State win the Southern Conference, those are things that get people excited about the sport of wrestling. And they want to tune in. They want to learn more. We had the Ohio State came down and dueled NC State this year in Reynolds Coliseum, and they set the all-time attendance record for wrestling there. It was a fantastic – I mean, the place was packed. People were hanging from the rafters. There's Kyle Snyder and Gwizdowski in the same room right there, two world team members side by side on the mat talking with each other, and some of the highest level wrestling anywhere in the country going on right there. And our folks came out to support it, so pretty exciting.
Now, as we circle back to the North Carolina USA Wrestling side of things, how long have you been the state chair?
This is my second year as state chair. I've been involved with the organization a long time. I spent about 10 years as administrative director, which basically meant I got to push all the paper around and answer the mail and answer the phone. And so this is just my second year as state chair. I've been involved with the organization pretty much my whole career as a coach. And but it's an exciting opportunity to be at the helm and to have the folks that I've been talking about here sort of doing their thing, but also supporting what we're doing at the grassroots level. I feel very lucky, to be honest with you.
It's also a family affair for you, as I met two of your kids at the Virginia Duels a couple years ago. You know, Evie spent some time working at USA Wrestling, and Solomon is a track wrestling guru, and he came up and ran our Virginia Duels, and it was just like, okay, we got it was a quick introduction into the Duncan side of things.
Hey, I appreciate that. Yeah, my kids are great. Solomon's in nursing school at Carolina, and he's a mat official. He was the Greco official of the tournament at Junior Duels. I guess it was this year. Eve, obviously, she's still involved with track and works some for them, and she still calls me every now and then and wants to talk a little shop. So she probably might even hear this. So, hey, Eve, how you doing? And my youngest daughter's 16. She's actually probably one of the better pairings officials, but she's also decided to do some mat officiating herself, and she does a great job at whatever she's doing. She's great at it too. They've all been, you know, they've been raised in the sport, and they've chosen to do their own things and give. The one thing that we've tried to stress is just give back to the sport. You know, my son wrestled all through high school. He came here to Fargo a couple of times and went on some of the duels trips and had a good experience, but he's also given back through officiating, which I'm real thankful. We've got a great officials director, Dave Pelsing. Big Papa Bear is great at recruiting the kids. I mean, we've got 30, 40 young officials in North Carolina, so that's one of the reasons we're able to host Southeast Regionals is we've got the people in place to support the event.
Where are you seeing the growth in North Carolina? Is it some, you know, well, I guess part of that's twofold. One, where's the growth? And two, how can you make it grow in a state that has good wrestling history, but I wouldn't call it tradition yet?
We got a lot of room for growth. How about women's wrestling, right? Half the state's not wrestling yet. They don't even know they can wrestle yet, and we're chipping away at that. We actually brought 5 girls up here this year. It's the first time we've had what I'll call a team in Fargo for the women, and we had a female All-American first time up here, so she's our second ever female All-American up here in Fargo. We had one back in I think 2015 with Kayla Mazar. So the women's side of it's going to be huge in North Carolina. I'm looking forward to our high school athletic association getting around to the sanctioning conversation, and I think that's going to mean growth. Obviously, the clubs are developing things at the grassroots level. I'm making a big push. We're actually getting ready to try to work with the Coaches Association in North Carolina and the NWCA guys to put together an all-star event with North and South Carolina. And we've got some great ideas about that. That's going to be real exciting. So I think we're going to see some more growth in the high school guys part of it. So, we're looking at all across the board. And, of course, we're not forgetting associated styles either. Beach wrestling is going to be we're going to make North Carolina world famous for beach wrestling too, by the way.
One thing, it's also a difference maker, especially when you get into the South and then the southeast part of the country is I guess what they would consider traditional roles and gender roles and such, where girls aren't supposed to wrestle. I mean, how much do you combat with that, with some of that old school thinking that still prevails, a big part of that part of the country?
Well, I'm respectful of the older generation's attitudes, first of all, because honestly, both of my daughters have stepped foot on a wrestling mat and competed some. My youngest daughter actually competed her entire 8th grade year. She chose not to continue doing it in high school, but she had that opportunity. It was her choice. Grandparents weren't too fired up about it. They wanted her cheerleading or running track or something that was a traditional girls' sport. But, I had to put the screws to them a little bit and say, look, it's 2018. You got to support your kids, whatever they're doing. I understand the traditional attitudes. I think a lot of that has more to do with adolescent teenagers grabbing a hold of each other than it does boys and girls playing with each other in the sandbox, So I really think at the youth level, most folks would be totally supportive of women's wrestling, and especially if it's separate from the guys. That's why we've got to grow the women's side of it. But at the high school level, that's almost a necessity. If you want people to be convinced that they're going to let their daughter wrestle, you need to have a separate women's division for them to participate in. And once we get that, I think the sky's the limit, because really North Carolina's a pretty progressive state, and people like their sports in North Carolina. I mean, they love whatever it is. Track is huge in North Carolina. Tennis is big. Obviously basketball is huge. Anything that parents can get their kids involved in. The climate's good. There's plenty of opportunity to get to and from practices. There's lots of athletic facilities in North Carolina. So if we can get girls-only wrestling established, I think lots of people are going to buy into it.
One of the topics you also had reached out to me about was what you guys are doing with Headlock on Hunger. Can you explain what that is and how you guys are exactly involved in it?
Oh, absolutely. That's another thing that we're super excited about. Evelyn Charities up in Asheville started the Headlock on Hunger campaign, and they reached out to us and asked us to be involved. And so what we've done the last couple of years is we've worked in conjunction with the Southern Conference tournament when it was in Asheville, and this past year we did it in conjunction, maybe 2 years in a row, we've done it in conjunction with the ACC tournament that was in Raleigh and Chapel Hill. We've gone in alongside those events and had a youth event, and then we've taken the kids that came to that tournament over and let them go over and watch the semifinals and the finals of the SoCon and the ACC tournament. So they're getting a great youth wrestling experience, and they're getting to see high-level college wrestling basically for free in the evening. And the parents love it, and the best part of it is the proceeds from what we're doing have gone to support efforts to eradicate childhood hunger in rural areas of North Carolina. We collect canned goods when folks come through the door as part of the admission if they want to bring them. Teams have brought them. We had a challenge with the SoCon. The SoCon teams actually brought food, and I know Virginia Tech had like their whole bottom of their bus loaded with canned goods when they showed up at the tournament down there, and they collected tons of canned goods and raised several $1,000s that we were able to put towards that cause. So we really haven't. We've just scratched the surface with Headlock on Hunger, and what we can do with that, and we want to keep that going. We're trying to expand it out to local tournaments, particularly in Western North Carolina. We've been able to use some of the local high school tournaments in sort of a similar way, where the teams challenge each other to bring canned goods to the tournament with them, and then, of course, we're going to keep doing it with the college tournaments. I know the SoCon's going to be back in Boone this year, so I've already talked to John Mark about trying to work out a Headlock on Hunger tournament up there. And Evelyn Charity's guys, they've just been fantastic. Bill Murdoch. Bill's a huge wrestling fan, and he's he's pretty good friends with Dan Gable and Jerry Briscoe, and he's got hands in lots of different pies in the wrestling world. But he's very passionate about the Headlock on Hunger movement, and brings a lot of resources to the table that we may not necessarily think about bringing to the table. Has some great connections in the marketing side of it. And so, I mean, it's a great, giving back, being part of this. We talk about giving back a lot in the sport, but, not just giving back to the sport of wrestling, but giving back to the community around you is that's sowing good seeds. The wrestling community wins when people see wrestlers out doing charity work and giving back to the community and working to fix problems we already fix problems like childhood obesity and health. We're doing that naturally through getting kids healthy, teaching them how to eat healthy and live healthy lifestyles, but also giving back and dealing with issues like childhood hunger, And we talk about wrestlers understand hunger. That's one great thing about when you start talking to wrestling people about somebody's hungry and needs to be fed, that wrestlers are one group of people that totally understand that, So they're pretty receptive to the message of, hey, you got a classmate that's not getting to eat at night, and it ain't because they're trying to make weight. They're not eating because they don't have any food in the pantry. Most wrestlers, if they knew that, would say, oh, my God, please go get them a can of something, So it's a pretty exciting cause, and we're going to continue to do it and continue to try to grow it, and who knows where it'll go.
Any final thoughts? I mean, we just scratched the surface on North Carolina wrestling. This is basically just to kind of create awareness of what you guys are doing and, all the events that are going on, the USA chapter booming. But any final thoughts? Maybe the experience here in Fargo. Greco going second for the second year in a row.
Yeah, we're down with that. We have no issue with it. Greco first, Greco second, Greco third. We've got some great Greco kids. But Fargo's great. Our kids are coming out here being very competitive this year. Very excited about the way they performed out here. Final thoughts are just excited about the direction things are going in North Carolina. So thankful to have guys at the collegiate level, the Pat Papalizios, the Eric Wentzes, the Daniel Elliott's, all the guys that are working so hard at their level to make things successful. I see Rob Tate right over there. He's the head coach at Queens University, and he's up here in Fargo blowing a whistle this week, That's the kind of guys we've got, and he's, I saw him doing technique a while ago with the Georgia girls and showing them some stuff, So that mentality is everywhere, and it's showing up. People have bought into the idea that we want to try to raise the bar in North Carolina, and we got guys like Timmy McCall that are committed to raising the bar of North Carolina wrestling and getting it to where it ought to be on the national level. We ought to be on par with Illinois. We ought to be on par with Ohio. We ought to be on the same level as Pennsylvania. But we got to be able to come up here and prove that. We can't just say, oh, yeah, we're as good as they are, and then we come up here and go 0-40 in freestyle and Greco. We got to be able to come up here and win some stop signs. And so when we can start hauling some stop signs back to North Carolina, then people take notice. You know that. So we're taking 2 stop signs home so far, which is it's good for us right now. We're looking for a few more, though. So I got to get back to work and go out here and cheerlead for these guys, and hopefully we got 3 more juniors still rolling in the top side and a couple 6 or 7 still in the consies. So hopefully after tonight's round we'll still be alive and kicking and maybe looking for some more stop signs to go back to North Carolina this year.
Ed, thanks for the insight and the input.
Jason, thank you, man. Appreciate what you do covering the sport, and come down to North Carolina anytime. You're not far away.
I love the barbecue. And the beach. I'm an Outer Banks guy. We grew up in Virginia Beach, that area. We're like, you want to go to the beach? We don't go to Virginia Beach. We drive the 90 miles down to the Outer Banks.
You'll be glad to know that Southeast Regionals is going to be in Wilmington next year. So you can come to the beach, you can see great wrestling at Southeast, and we'll find you some good barbecue.
I think my wife might actually like that. Ed, thanks for the time, man.
Thank you, Jason.
The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Clothing. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. First time listening? Well, you can change that by going to MattTalkOnline.com/GetShortTime to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or listen on your favorite podcatcher at MattTalkOnline.com/listen.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.